Easy on the beat.
Everybody, we're back again. This is the MocoFootball.com weekly podcast. I'm Kevin Grant, and this is the great Damon Anderson pulling it out for us. He's a little bit underneath the weather. Damon, last week, the game of the week was Paint Branch going up to Northwest. In my opinion, Damon, and look, at this point, we got to start looking at a Northwest win in a separate category than all the other games that the other team has played. I kind of throw that out for Paint Branch, honestly, because right now I think that Northwest is almost in a different stratosphere. And in my opinion, and the crazy thing about it is I still think that Paint Branch is a really good team. I just think that it just showed what kind of coaching job Coach Neesmith has been doing over the past year. They're young. They have a lot of talent, but they're still young. And it showed that game. When you look at what Coach Neesmith and his staff has done compared to what other teams in similar situations, I'm talking about losing a lot of seniors or whatever the case may be, what other teams have done in similar situations, I think that they've done a masterful job. They're 5-1 in a great position to make the playoffs and have a high seed, possibly home field advantage for at least the first round. But going back to Northwest, I think the level of excellence right now is so high that they're not playing against the opponent at this point, and it looks like that. It honestly looks like that. They are not playing against the opponent right now. They're playing against themselves. They're trying to match every single game what they did the last game. And when you have guys coming into the game that normally don't touch the ball all the time and things like that, and they know exactly what to do. Northwest had a fake punt, and E.J. Lee ended up scoring, I believe it was like a 30 or 40-yard touchdown. And it wasn't necessarily the fact that they scored because, you can catch somebody off guard and score a trick play. But it was the fact, it was the execution of the play that I was impressed with. Everybody knew what was going on. Everybody understood who to block, where to go. What do you think about Paint Branch after that game? What do you think about Northwest after that game? Do you think that it was an indictment on either team?
Well, Northwest is definitely obviously the best team in the state, Montgomery County and the DMV, but I do not think they are 43 points better than Paint Branch.
Right.
You mentioned the fake punt. I do believe Paint Branch had a few turnovers. They basically shot themselves in the foot early in the game and dug themselves into a deep hole that they just couldn't get out of. And you just can't do that against Northwest. I mentioned either last week or the week before, in order to beat Northwest, you pretty much have to play a perfect
game, right?
And Paint Branch just got off to a bad start, and it snowballed. With that being said, even if Paint Branch played perfect, I still think Northwest would have beat them by at least 2 scores. But the 49-6 final score, I don't think is indicative of how good Northwest is or how bad Paint Branch is. I think it lies somewhere in the middle. But moving forward, Northwest is going to continue to click until they meet up with Quince Orchard in 2 weeks. I don't expect them to have much of an issue with Wooten. Actually, I take that back. They got Wooten this week, and then they travel to Clarksburg. That Clarksburg game, even though Clarksburg has 2 losses to the
Absolutely.
They were the last team to beat Northwest, and I'm sure
Yep.
that's fresh on everybody's mind.
Yep.
So, even though for the most part, not even for the most part, I mean, there's no way around it. Northwest hasn't been tested at all this year. But after this week, after they roll through Wooten, Clarksburg, QO, those are going to be two big games, and it'll give us a much clearer picture of where all three of those teams stand, and give us an idea of what we're working with moving in towards the playoffs. For Paint Branch, they took the L, but that's okay. I mean, it's Northwest. I'm sure they wanted to perform better, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
They got a huge game coming up this week versus Blair.
Absolutely.
The Blazers, they've been chirping as loud as possible about how they're not getting the respect they think they deserve.
Yeah.
And this is a game. This will show us whether Blair has moved into that upper tier of elite teams in Montgomery County. If not, they're still having a solid season, but I just can't. I can't talk about Blair the same way I talk about Paint Branch or Sherwood or Seneca Valley unless they beat one of those teams. They already
Absolutely.
lost to Sherwood, so
Yeah.
they get a second shot at a quality team, and that's Paint Branch.
Right.
For both of these teams, this game is huge considering how the playoff points are working out week to week. So it's going to be a close call all around the state. There's going to be a lot of teams sitting at home based off of literally one game, and I think for Paint Branch and Blair, this might be the game. Paint Branch caught a break this week with, I do believe, Perry Hall going down in an upset. So what I talked about last week about how Sherwood or Paint Branch might not get in, they definitely caught a break with one of those teams
Right.
this week. But still, it's still going to be close going in. So yeah, this is for both of these teams. It's going to have huge playoff implications.
Right.
Blair could still get in with a loss if Paint Branch loses again, and they still have Sherwood on the schedule. It's going to be cutting it real close.
Yeah. We're going to get into the Paint Branch and the Sherwood ramifications when we actually talk about their two matchups coming up this week. And, you know, those two are going to be involved with our two premier games this week, actually. But I agree with you on Paint Branch. They definitely shot themselves in the foot early on. I mean, off the opening kickoff. From that point on, it was just a torrent of errors on the Paint Branch side of it. So, no, I definitely don't think that Paint Branch is that much worse than... This might be hard for a game that was that big of a blowout, but I would actually entertain, or I would actually like to see that game again in the playoffs, just to see, without the turnovers, what that could have turned into. I think that Paint Branch kind of made a mistake early on with their strategy a little bit. As I mentioned on the podcast the week before, Northwest is a different kind of Montgomery County team. The usual traditional Montgomery County team is a field position game. Montgomery County teams like to fill you out, run the ball. Then now, in the second half, that's when you start seeing some big explosive plays and things like that. Northwest is a team that get you up out of there real quick, and they don't really mess around. They try to put up as many points as they can early on, and then I'll try to run the ball out and milk the clock, after they get a huge lead. And I feel like Paint Branch felt that this was a previous incarnation of Northwest where you could kind of run the ball on them and that they were soft. Listen, for everybody that hasn't seen Northwest this year, this Northwest's defense is legit, and it's not a joke. And I feel like Paint Branch came out and they felt like they could run the ball up the middle, and they didn't have success at all doing with that strategy. And before they knew it, they looked up. It was 21-0, and I think that once they kind of went to the more of a spread attack, I think that Paint Branch had some success. Now, of course, when you only score one touchdown, you can say how much success did you really have. But I think that they really found something in the second half that they could probably use if they see Northwest again in the playoffs. And so I would actually like to see that matchup again, minus all those turnovers and those errors from Paint Branch, and with a different strategy. I definitely think that game could be closer. The next game, we're going to talk about is the Clarksburg Wooten game. We kind of predicted that Wooten was going to have a tough time with Clarksburg. They ended up having a really tough time with Clarksburg. What did you think about this game? And were you surprised that um, were you surprised at the score either way? Did you expect Clarksburg to kind of blow them out even more than they did? Was that the score that you were kind of expecting, or did you expect Wooten to have more of a fight than they did?
I'm going to have to go back and listen to last week's podcast, but I think I was relatively close on the score.
Right.
If you remember, I pretty much said the party was over for Wooten.
Right.
Starting last week and moving forward. They were off to an excellent 4-1 start, but they're getting into the heavy hitters on their schedule in the next few weeks.
Right.
And this score is pretty much indicative of what I thought was going to happen. I mean, Wooten has had a great season so far.
Right.
Especially considering what they had to deal with coming into the season. But they weren't exactly beating the best teams in Montgomery County to get to that 4-1 record.
Right.
The best win they had was the 76 win over Whitman. After that, you have two winless teams and one win team.
Right.
Maybe. So, and Clarksburg, they might be the best 4-2 team in the state, public school wise.
Right. Right.
Even in their two losses, they still look good. In their losses to Quince Orchard and Damascus, they showed, if they shored up a few errors here and there, they can hang with the elite in Montgomery County. So no, I wasn't surprised at that score at all. I mean, they jumped out to a 17-0 lead at halftime, and with Clarksburg's defense, that's a tough hole to get out of.
Right.
Yeah, and especially the way their defense plays and the way Clarksburg runs the ball and eats up that clock. It's just hard to come back from a 17-0 hole. Fenslau and Joe Nacy did their thing. I do believe Tyler rushed for over 200 yards in that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a monster, straight up monster. So that's pretty much what I expected. Moving forward, I expect Clarksburg to do the same thing against BCC, if not worse. And then they have a huge game, like I mentioned before, against Northwest. And for Wooten, doesn't get any easier. They got Northwest this weekend. And they thought that 34-7 beat down was something. Yeah, it might get ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for Clarksburg, and you mentioned Tyler Fenslau, and in my opinion, Travis and Joe Nacy, those guys make Clarksburg special. But I think the element that makes Clarksburg elite is the ability to run the ball with Tyler and running up the middle. And I think that's kind of the element that makes them, I guess you can say, playoff material. Because when you have that element where you can run the ball and you can have the 5-yard 4-yard gains and move the chains in that kind of fashion and manner, it's gonna be you can go to that anytime. At any point in the game, you can go to Tyler. You can say, okay, this kid can get us 4 yards. He can get us 3 yards. He can get us 5 yards. And I think that's gonna be something that Clarksburg's gonna have to lean on going on the stretch run. You mentioned their defense. I mean, Clarksburg has an elite defense, and they've in their two losses they've given Quince Orchard and Damascus fits.
Absolutely.
The final score doesn't really indicate really what went on in that game. They both of those games, Clarksburg gave both of those teams fits defensively. And you mentioned the Clarksburg Northwest matchup, and I think that honestly, that's going to be, and this might be weird to say with QO on the schedule. I think that might be the hardest thing that they're going to have to do this year. I'm talking about Northwest, is to go to Clarksburg and beat Clarksburg, because I think the Northwest kids know that they can beat QO. They know they can beat QO, but the Clarksburg kids know that they can beat Northwest because they already did it with the same kids. So the fear factor that is there with the other teams is not there with Clarksburg. Clarksburg, can give two hoots about Northwest at all. You know, that's just kind of how it is, and I actually love that. I'm gonna, I hope I can, see that game one way or the other. But I think that Clarksburg is looking at the situation. They looked at what Northwest did last year, and to remind everybody, Northwest lost 2 games last year during the regular season.
Indeed, they did.
And they ended up doing what they did. So Clarksburg, I think they're in a great spot right now. They lost to 2 great teams, had 2 great showings, and their remaining games, that they have, especially the biggest one that they have, they should feel pretty confident in. Now, with that being said, Northwest will argue, look, we're told at that time we didn't really know what we were. Now we're coming back into that building state champions, and we're coming back in that building, know exactly who we are, know exactly what kind of talent we have. This is going to be a totally different situation that we're talking about. So that's why I think that that's going to be one of the more interesting games that we're going to have.
Purchase your tracks today.
Let's transition over to not the game of the week, but a game that we're all interested in. Paint Branch versus Blair. This is a game that, honestly, Damon, we kind of looked at Blair's schedule and said, okay, we heard all the hype. Let's assume that they're a good team, right? It's a 2-game schedule, really. I mean, at the time, we kind of thought it was a 3-game schedule, but the way things turned out, it's a 2-game schedule. Sherwood and Paint Branch. So, they lost to Sherwood already. They have Paint Branch coming in. It's one of those situations where I believe for respect purposes. Now, if they lose this game, it's still possible that they can make the playoffs. But just for respect purposes and just for, hey, we belong purposes, for their psyche, I feel like this is a must-win game for them. Honestly. If they lose this game, I mean, honestly, we can just about dismiss them until they get into the playoffs. And if they come out with some kind of win that we weren't expecting, if they don't win this game, I mean, if they go 8-2, we're just gonna be like, hey, it's a great feat for a DCC school, but as far as the grand scheme of things, when it comes on to what we feel about them as a playoff contender or whatever the case may be, it won't be anything that we will write home about.
Right.
And that being said, I'm not trying to dismiss what the importance of that record would mean for the area. I mean, that'd be great for that school and everything like that. For the DCC, that for them to go 8-2 would be fantastic, would be great. And there's no denying that. I mean, I think that would be the best record that a Down County school would have since Kennedy in 2006, I believe. So that would be huge. But as far as us respecting them as a legit contender, they have to beat Paint Branch. They have to. And that might be a tall task, but we don't have any other evidence. You know, it's not like there's not another game that we can sit there and say, hey, they didn't beat Paint Branch and Sherwood, but they beat X team and X team. There's nothing else. And you have a game versus an 0-6 team where you only beat them 7-0.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing to have in your resume at all. I think that Blair needs to look at this game as a must-win game. Aside from all the playoff stuff, take that out of the picture. Just for respect purposes, for their psyche, they got to look at this game as a must-win game. Paint Branch is kind of coming off of a tough game. They might not be all the way recovered from that. You got to come in and take care of business, in my opinion, if you're Blair. What do you think about this game overall? And do you think that Paint Branch is going to be coming out? Do you think that Paint Branch can recover in time enough to put up a good performance versus Blair and come out with that victory?
Absolutely. If there is a good thing about getting blown out, you kind of get it out of your system really quick.
Right.
If not the next day, if not within the game, like in the fourth quarter when it's all said and done, at least the next day. I mean, I'm sure Coach Neesmith and all the kids over in Burtonsville, like, they haven't thought about Northwest in days.
Right.
So it's out of the system. It's done. It's in the past. They're focused on Blair now. And just like we heard all the talk, I'm sure Paint Branch has heard the same thing. They've heard the Blair Blazers barking pretty much all season about the lack of respect that they're getting, and this is the game. Some of these kids play football, youth football together.
Right.
They know each other, so, and a lot of these kids may have chosen Paint Branch over Blair for various reasons. So,
right.
so this has a lot of subplots to it. But yeah, this is a huge game. No matter which way you look at it, it's a game for respect for Blair. It's a game for Paint Branch to show that they're still the elite in their individual division in 4A MoCo East.
Yeah.
And the larger picture, this has playoff implications for both teams. The loser of this game may be on the outside looking in after week 10, looking for some help to get into the playoffs.
Right.
So this is huge overall. I mean, depending on how things shake out, this could possibly be a fight for a home field game during the playoffs, which would be crazy if Blair ends up with the home game. But weirder things have happened.
Yeah.
It really depends on how these games shake out. But all that being said, I expect Paint Branch to win this game. Probably a 2-score game, so I got it 28-14, somewhere in that range. I think Blair has done an outstanding job up until this point. But I don't think they're on the level of Paint Branch just yet.
Right.
Now, if they win this game, all bets are off.
Oh man, if they win this game,
if they win this game, the message boards on MoCoFootball.com is going to explode. Twitter's going to explode.
Man,
It's going to throw a monkey wrench in everything. There's going to be a huge domino effect if Blair wins. This isn't just going to affect the two teams involved in this game. It's going to affect 6 to 8 teams.
Oh yeah, I mean we're gonna just a preview for what's gonna come up in the show. We're actually gonna talk about playoff situations coming up and later on the show, and that would I mean, could you imagine? We're gonna save that for later. We'll save that for later. But yeah, that'd be kind of crazy. That'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah. All eyes are going to be at Blair. And people are going to be asking, what's the score of the Paint Branch Blair game? Who won the Paint Branch Blair game? Because it's that big. I mean, yeah, individually it's huge.
Yeah. No, absolutely. My respect for Coach Neesmith is very, very like I don't think there's a coach. I mean, there's coaches that I respect as much, but there's not a coach that I could say I can honestly I respect more than. You understand what I'm trying to say? So I honestly feel like Paint Branch is gonna come out, be very focused, be very hungry. And I think that they're gonna come out and be a team on a mission, honestly. And but with that being said, I don't think that this game is gonna be a blowout. I got the game 20-7. I think that they're gonna score 2 touchdowns, and I'm gonna add in two more field goals to make it 20. And I feel like Blair's gonna come up with with a pretty good drive against them and come up with a score. The problem I have with Blair is can they score against really good competition versus Sherwood? Their defense played well. The offense failed them. Again, I mentioned the 7-0 score versus BCC. That's not great. I think that they're gonna have to really show that they can score versus elite competition. I think they have to prove to themselves they can score against elite competition. And I think that Blair's going to have a pretty good defensive game versus Paint Branch. I think they're going to come out firing on all cylinders.
Any other week, this Sherwood Blair would be hands down. I'm sorry, Blair Paint Branch would be the game of the week. But when you have such a stellar, epic, highly anticipated matchup
Man,
that is Quince Orchard versus Sherwood.
Yes.
They're really that has to be the game of the week. I don't care,
Guys.
Honestly, Northwest could be playing Damascus and Sherwood.
Guys, the pride of the podcast bowl is upon us. Okay. Listen. This is the game that we turn after. If you don't know, I'm proud Sherwood alumnus, class of 2008. The man Damon Anderson, state champion.
Do in '92.
Hey, state champion, got it done. Quince Orchard Cougar, proud alumnus. Listen, this right here, this is war, man. Look, I can't. Sherwood Nation, Warrior Nation. I can't lose this game, man. I cannot come back on this podcast and have to listen to this man gloat about these Quince Orchard Cougars, man. I can't. Listen, Marcus Sims, Nevin Sussman, Travis Levy, my Anthony Starnes, all you guys, I'm calling you guys out. Come on, man. Gotta get it done. I'm serious right now. Listen. We're struggling a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. We're not as sharp as we should be, okay? The Magruder score is kind of alarming. I'll admit that, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But I will say this. The Warrior Pride will be in full effect on Thursday. Student section will be packed, okay? Little Red Army thing will be there, yeah, we understand. Y'all be over there with y'all little signs and everything. That's cool, right? But we'll be there with our stuff, okay? Coming out there. And this is the thing. Honestly, Damon, in all seriousness, I think that for Sherwood, this is a game where, and every single program has a game. You saw it with Arkansas and Alabama last week. There's a point where you got to get over that hump. Clarksburg ended up doing it last year with Northwest. There's a point in time where you say, okay, it's time for us to turn this corner. And Sherwood is at a point right now. This is Coach Greer's second year, where they're looking for that one statement win. They're looking for that one statement win they can hang their hat on and say, okay, we're ready to start competing for a state championship now. We're getting ready to get back to the level that we were at, Richie, like, it's that time. And I think for a lot of Sherwood supporters, we're just waiting for that little smoke signal to go off in the air to say that we're back. You know what I'm saying? And I think that would be a great way to kind of send off that signal to say, hey, we're back to beat a great program like Quince Orchard, the standard bearer of this county for a long time. But it's going to be a tall task, Damon. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's going to be a tall task. As much of a fan as I am, I'm also supposed to be a quote-unquote an analyst or whatever.
Right.
And when you have a situation where Sherwood has not been able to stop the run all season, okay? And it hasn't even been close. Just about every single good running back that they faced has been able to have success versus Sherwood, running the football. This is not the opponent that you want to have a bad rushing defense against at all. Okay? So, I am supremely worried, okay, about that situation. Really worried. That it's a problem that Sherwood's gonna have to overcome. And what I'm hoping is that Sherwood's able to stack the box, play some man-on-man on the outside, stop the run, and have to make that quarterback make some plays. If we're able to, play some man-to-man on the outside and be able to load up that box, I think we have a shot. I definitely think that we're going to have to outscore QO. I don't anticipate a situation where we're going to stop, hold them underneath, let's say, 21. I definitely think that QO is going to be able to score 28 points in this game. But listen, Sherwood has athletes, okay? Sherwood has talent on their team. It's just, when will the talent wake up and start doing what it's supposed to do? And could this be the game that it wakes up and does what it's supposed to do? And if it is, because if you look at it, Damon, they have a top-tier quarterback, I'll say. I mean, I haven't really gone down and ranked all the quarterbacks in the county, but I would say that Nevin is, I'm talking about Nevin Sussman, I believe that he's a top 5 guy if you're going to rank all the guys in the county. Marcus Sims is I think he's the best wide receiver in the county, in my opinion. And Travis Levy, he's a really good running back that a lot of people don't know about. And another guy that I think that, and this is a matchup that I think works in our favor, whoever QO's third corner is, they're really going to have to step up their game, because Anthony Starnes is a really good player in the slot. And he's been having a really good year so far from that slot position. And he's going to put pressure on the third corner for QO. So I think that there's things that Sherwood could use in their favor. That being said, it's going to be a tall task. Now, I'm going to pick my boys. I'm going to pick it 35-28. I'm going to say, Marcus Sims, game-winning touchdown, 58 seconds left on the clock. Come up, you guys are going to try to throw the ball, which is not what you guys are known for. It's going to look a little bit shaky. We're going to get a pick and kneel out the ball. We're going to win the game 35-28. There you go.
I hear you. So, excuse me. From the Quince Orchard standpoint, even though they pretty much blew out BCC last week, 51-0,
right?
There were some things in that game that caused me to raise my eyebrow.
Okay.
If they were playing a higher caliber team,
right,
fumbles, and then a muffed punt. Yeah, BCC punted the ball and QO muffed it. They fumbled that snap or fumbled the punt return also. But anyway, against a team like, I don't know, Northwest, Paint Branch, Sherwood, that might have cost them
Right.
heavily. Luckily, QO's defense is extremely stout, so those 3 turnovers, they were able to hold serve, get some 3 and outs, and get the ball back into their offense's hands. Second off, Sherwood's strength plays very well into Quince Orchard's weakness, which is their secondary. Defensive line with Adam McClain in the linebacking core, they're good to go. It's that young secondary that has given up some big plays, big passing plays, pretty much throughout the year. Even in the games that they've been blown out on, there's been a couple of plays where it's just like, whoa, what's going on there?
Right.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Sherwood could pull this off. But as much as we are aware of what's at stake with this game,
Yeah.
and the playoffs looming, the coaches at Quince Orchard and the kids are very aware.
Yeah.
They know that they can't afford to overlook Sherwood and eyeball, Northwest
Right.
in a couple of weeks.
Right.
They are taking this game very seriously. If for no other reason other than Coach Oswald, longtime assistant at Sherwood,
Yeah.
trust me, he's not going to let them overlook Sherwood at all.
Yeah. My boy, Coach Chuck.
So,
My man.
this is going to be an extremely intense, hard-hitting game. I expect Adam McClain to have an awesome game on the defensive line.
Okay.
I expect Carson Knight to manage the game at quarterback, a few passes here and there, no
Okay.
turnovers.
All right. Cool.
I expect the two-headed monster, Kyle Green and Marvin Binder.
Okay. Yeah. Those are the people I'm scared about. Yeah. You just mentioned. Yeah. That's it. Those are the guys that I'm gonna. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna.
I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. For Sherwood to win this game, Quince Orchard is going to have to do similar things to what they did last week against BCC. Just non-contact turnovers.
Yeah.
Some penalties in the red zone, perhaps. A missed field goal here or there. And that's all it really takes. Just little simple things like that.
Right.
After saying all that, I'm still picking Quince Orchard to win this game, 35-14, going away. I think Quince Orchard, ever since that Damascus loss, and I still think they have a bad taste in their mouth. They've been on a mission. They want to show improved, not only to themselves but to everybody else in Montgomery County and the state that Quince Orchard is still one of the big boys on the block.
Oh, absolutely.
And that they can hang. So, and a loss to Sherwood would just, give the doubters more ammo.
Right.
So, I fully expect Quince Orchard to win this game, and I expect you to be wearing one of those nice
Oh God.
Quince Orchard road jerseys or T-shirts or what have you at some point in the following week.
Yeah. If you don't know, we have a bet. Okay. Basically, if if the Quince Orchard Cougars win, I'm gonna have to put on a Quince Orchard shirt or whatever, take a picture or whatever the case may be, put it up, act like I like it and everything like that. But if my boys win, which is gonna happen, you'll be seeing Damon in Sherwood blue. I think Damon, I think that you look good in Sherwood blue, man. I think that when you put on the shirt, you're gonna be like, hey man, I think I should have transferred, when I had the chance.
No chance.
You know, I think that I would look good in this color, man. I think so. I think so, Damon. I do. I do. But yeah, everything.
If Corn Orchard loses that game, I'll put on full pads.
Okay. Hey, look, it's on record.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
It's on record, man. I look. Listen, my brother still has his helmet. We can. I don't know what head size. Listen, it's on record. It's on the pocket. Yeah, everybody heard that. Cool.
Yeah. If Corn Orchard loses, I will wear full pads.
Cool. We're good. We're good. We can work that out. We can work that out. But well, that's all the time we have for today. Damon, do you have anything that you want to add?
Ironically, I have nothing to add this
Okay.
other than go Quince Orchard, beat
Oh
Sherwood.
Lord, why did I ask that? That's terrible. Lord. But anyways, guys, we're winding down to the end of the season. If you're a parent out there and you're having a son that's a senior, the biggest thing right now is if he's a kid that's expecting to go to the next level, make sure that you understand all the things that go along with that. Start looking in. I mean, honestly, I'm not saying it's too late to do it, but you know, you should have been doing all this stuff a little bit before this. But if you haven't yet already, start looking into the NCAA Eligibility Center. Start looking into some of the other things that you got to do to, you know, be eligible for the NCAA Eligibility Center and everything that you got to do for that. The SATs, things like that. There's a lot of kids that, honestly, this is their last 3 weeks of football of their life. They'll never put on pads again. So, you guys enjoy it. Trust me, me and Damon, we're old heads. We would like to get out there one more time. So, you know, you might not be having the season that you might have expected or whatever the case may be. But these last 3 weeks, try to enjoy football, man. And it's a great game, and a lot of people would like to be in your shoes, win or lose, just to be able to go out there and compete. So you guys, you know, enjoy these last 3 weeks. If you're one of those teams that are out of the playoff hunt, that, you know, you're a senior, this is your last go around, make sure that if you're a guy that wants to play in the next level, make sure that you got all that stuff situated and your highlight tape and everything like that. If you're not, enjoy these last 3 weeks, man, with your brothers, the guys that you bond with, and have a great time and try to pull out 1 or 2 victories for old time's sake. MogulFootball.com podcast. See you guys next week. Go out to the games and have fun.